When my terrified daughter demanded my bank codes to pay off a cyberstalker, she didn't realize she was asking the wrong woman to surrender. Instead of paying the ransom, I locked down our entire life, set a $250,000 digital trap, and hunted the predator down before lunch. Before continuing, write where you are from or what time it is. My daughter took a shaky breath, the sound of it sharp and brittle in the afternoon stillness of our home. It was a sound that didn't belong here, not in this living room, designed with the ruthless precision of a Japanese garden. Clean lines, muted earth tones, and a wall of glass framing a meticulously manicured lawn. This was a space built for silence, a space built for control. But Maya was vibrating. She stood by the garden entrance, her knuckles white peaks around her phone. She never used that door. She was wearing her art school jacket, usually a carefully curated statement of dishevelment, but today it looked slept in. And there was a scent clinging to her, damp wool and ozone, the smell of rain. I looked out the floor-to-ceiling window. The sky was a perfect, mocking, cloudless blue. "Mom," she said. Her voice wasn't hers. It was a raw scrape, like something dragged over broken glass. "Give me your phone." I froze. My hand was midway to my cup of jasmine tea, cooling on the coaster of my favorite leather armchair. My mind, a machine honed by 20 years of high-frequency trading and risk analysis, flagged the anomaly instantly. Data point 1, illogical demand. Data point 2, physiological distress. "And the bank codes," she added, the words tumbling out in a desperate, jagged rush. "I need the bank codes. Now." I set the tea down. Click. The sound was unnaturally loud. "Maya?" I didn't stand up. Panic is an inefficiency. Panic is a variable I do not allow. I kept my posture fluid, my face a smooth mask of calm inquiry. "You're shaking." "Just give them to me." She took a step forward, and that's when I saw her eyes. They were wide, the pupils blown so large they eclipsed the warm brown irises. This wasn't the drama of a bad critique or a fight with a boyfriend. This was primal. This was the look of a cornered animal, hearing the snap of a twig in a dark forest. "Why?" I asked. One word. A simple request for data. She flinched as if I'd thrown the hot tea in her face. Her gaze flickered past me, darting to the hallway, then to the kitchen, checking the corners of the room, checking for invisible observers. "Don't ask me that," she stammered. "Please, Mom, it's important. I just need them." She looked down at her phone. That was the tell. The screen was dark, angled away from me, but in the reflection of the window glass behind her, I saw a flash. A green bubble appeared, then another. "He is watching." My threat model reconfigured in a nanosecond. Maya wasn't the aggressor. She was the delivery mechanism. She was a hostage reading a ransom note, and the gun was invisible, pressed against her digital temple. "Who are you texting?" I asked, my voice dropping an octave. Harder. "No one." She screamed it, a ragged, tear-soaked sound. "Just give me the phone. He said he would." She choked on the words. The sob that ripped out of her throat was a physical blow to my chest. The mother in me wanted to launch out of the chair, wrap her in my arms, and promise to fix it. But the analyst, the woman who had built a fortune by seeing the patterns others missed, knew that would be a fatal error. Compliance is not a strategy. Compliance validates the threat. "He said he would do what, Maya?" I stood up now, slowly, deliberately. "He'll ruin it," she whispered. "Everything. Please." On the reflection, another green bubble flashed. Faster now, insistent. Target identification, extortion. Leverage, reputation or safety. Asset at risk, Maya. If I gave her the codes, I wasn't saving her. I was funding her predator. I was handing him the keys to the fortress I had spent her entire life building. No, I said. Maya's mouth fell open. The word hung in the air, heavy and absolute like a bank vault door slamming shut. She had been coached for anger, for confusion, for tears. She had not been coached for this cold, binary refusal. What? I said no. I took a step toward her. I understand you are terrified. I understand someone is making you do this, but I will not give you or him the keys to our world. You don't understand. She was shaking violently now, the tremors traveling from her hands to her shoulders. He knows. He knows everything. Then let him know this, I said, closing the distance between us. I didn't reach for her phone. That would be a declaration of war, and I wasn't ready to show my weapons yet. Instead, I placed my hands on her shoulders. They were knotted with tension, hard as stone. We are not negotiating. Mom, please. Quiet. I steered her. It wasn't a hug. It was a tactical repositioning. I walked her out of the open living room, away from the glass, into the hallway. You are going to your room. You're going to lie down. I can't. He's waiting. Let him wait. I marched her down the hall. The house, usually my sanctuary of controlled aesthetics, felt porous, vulnerable. I pushed open her bedroom door, a chaotic explosion of charcoal sketches and discarded clothes that usually drove me mad. Today, it just looked fragile. Sit, I commanded. She collapsed onto the bed, curling into a fetal ball, clutching the phone to her chest like a life preserver. Do not answer him, I said. Do not send a single character. Do you understand? She nodded numbly, tears tracking through the grime on her cheeks. I stepped out. I grabbed the handle of her door, and I turned the key. The click of the lock was the loudest sound in the world. I leaned my forehead against the wood for 1 second, allowing a single, jagged breath to escape. Then I straightened. The mother was locked in that room with the sobbing girl. Now, the operator was in charge. I turned on my heel and walked toward my office. I didn't run. Panic is for amateurs. I moved with the silent, terrifying purpose of a shark entering deep water. My office is a black box, literally. When I designed this house, the contractors thought I was paranoid. They suggested a nice oak study with a view of the garden. I insisted on sound-dampening acoustic panels, ballistic glass for the single window, and a dedicated circuit breaker. I stepped inside and locked the door. The room was cool, lit only by the standby LEDs of my server rack. I sat at my desk, a slab of polished obsidian that cost more than my first car, and pressed my thumb against the hidden biometric scanner drawer. Hiss. The drawer slid open. No papers, no pens, just the tools of my real trade. A satellite phone, 3 encrypted hard drives, and a burner phone, a featureless gray brick I hadn't powered on in 4 years. I ignored my main iMac. It was connected to the home Wi-Fi. The home Wi-Fi was now enemy territory. I powered up the burner. The battery bar blinked. 12%. Enough. I dialed the first number from memory. It rang twice. Yes? A clipped male voice. No greeting. Phoenix Fire, I said. Silence on the other end. Then the shift in tone. The rustle of a spine straightening in a leather chair 5 miles away. Go. Protocol Sierra Tango, November 77th, I recited. The codes tasted like copper in my mouth. Total asset lockdown. Personal, trust, offshore. I want a hard freeze on every account associated with my social or Maya's. That's extreme, Elena. The market is... I don't care about the market. I cut him off. My voice was ice. I want every digital door sealed. No outgoing transfers, no withdrawals, no inquiries. If a single cent moves, you are liable. Understood. I heard typing. Furious, fast typing. Authorization? Voice print confirmed. Do it. Time? I glanced at the analog clock on my wall. 11:42 a.m. Immediate, I said. You have 60 seconds. Done. I hung up. One drawbridge raised. I dialed the second number immediately. Jacob. My former network architect, now a private consultant who charged 5 figures just to pick up the phone. Elena? He sounded surprised. I didn't think you used this line anymore. I have a situation. Home network is compromised. Hostile actor active on a connected device. Maya? He guessed. He knew me too well. Proxy, I corrected. I need a purge, Jacob. Protocol Erebus. A long pause. Erebus is a scorched earth policy, Elena. It wipes the firmware. You'll lose the smart home configs, the security logs, the HVAC calibration. It's a factory reset with a sledgehammer. I don't want to clean the house, I said. I want to burn out the infestation. I need a clean slate, and I need it yesterday. Okay. The playfulness was gone from his voice. I'm initiating the kill switch. Your internet is going to die in about 2 minutes. It'll stay dead until I can route you a clean tunnel. Do it. Going dark. I dropped the burner phone back into the drawer and slid it shut. My heart was hammering against my ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage, but my hands were steady. I leaned back in my chair, the leather creaking in the silence. I had just paralyzed my entire financial life. I had cut off my own communication. I had blinded the house. I looked at the clock. 11:59 a.m., everything was locked. The money, the $250,000 in the liquid account, the trusts, the portfolio, was frozen behind a wall of bureaucracy and encryption that not even I could break in less than 24 hours. I had disarmed him. He wanted the money. It was gone. I exhaled, a long, slow release of tension. It was the right move, the only move. You starve the fire of oxygen. Then I heard it. It wasn't a digital alert. It wasn't a phone ringing. It was a scream, short, sharp, terrified. It came from down the hall. I was out of the chair before the echo died. The analyst vanished. The mother surged forward, flooding my veins with cold adrenaline. I unlocked my office door and sprinted into the hallway. The silence of the house was gone, replaced by a frantic, muffled scrabbling sound coming from Maya's room, like an animal trying to dig through a wall. I reached her door. I fumbled with the key, my hand suddenly clumsy, betraying the calm I had fought so hard to maintain. Click. I threw the door open. Maya was backed into the corner of the room, pressed against the wall as far away from the window as she could get. She wasn't looking at me. She was looking at her phone, which lay on the bedspread, screen glowing. He knows, she whimpered. She looked up at me, and her face was a mask of absolute horror. Mom, he knows what you did. I walked over and picked up the phone. The screen was a waterfall of green bubbles. Stupid. You think you're smart? You think you can lock me out? Big mistake. And then, the last message. It wasn't text. It was an image. I stared at the small rectangle of light, and the blood drained from my face, leaving me cold and hollow. It was a photo of our house. But it wasn't from Google Earth. It wasn't a street view. It was taken from low down, through the leaves of the rhododendron bush in the front garden. I could see the angle of the front porch. I could see the shadow of the oak tree falling across the driveway. I looked at the timestamp above the image. 12:03 p.m. It was taken 60 seconds ago. He's not online, Maya whispered, her voice trembling so hard the words vibrated in the air. Mom, he's outside. The phone felt like a live coal in my hand. I stared at that timestamp, 12:03 p.m., and the world tilted. The threat had jumped the gap. It had crossed the air gap between the digital and the physical. He wasn't a packet of data in a server farm in Russia. He was a biological entity standing in my azaleas. Get away from the window, I said. My voice was low, a growl. Maya didn't need to be told twice. She scrambled off the bed, crawling on her hands and knees to the bathroom connected to her suite. He's coming in. He's going to come in. No, he isn't. I moved to the window. I didn't peer through the blinds like a victim. I stood to the side of the frame, using the oblique angle of the glass to scan the front yard without exposing myself. The suburban street was maddeningly normal. A mail truck was putting along the curb, 3 houses down. A woman was jogging with a golden retriever that stopped to sniff a hydrant. The rhododendron bush, the vantage point of the photo, was still. Nothing moved, and that was the genius of it. If he had been standing there waving a knife, I could have called 911. I could have pointed a weapon. But he was a ghost. He had turned the mundane landscape of my life into a weapon. Every shadow was him. Every parked car was a surveillance van. I looked back at the phone in my hand. A new message popped up. I see you, Elena. Nice blouse. Silk? My stomach lurched. He was watching now. I scanned the room. The webcam on Maya's laptop was open on her desk. The smart TV on the wall had a camera for gesture control. Cover them, I snapped at Maya, who was peeking from the bathroom door. Towels, tape, anything. Cover every lens in this room. She scrambled to obey, grabbing a hoodie and throwing it over the laptop. I looked at the phone again. The game has changed, the text read. This isn't about the money anymore. You embarrassed me. Now I'm going to embarrass you. Who is he? I asked. I turned to Maya. She was huddled on the bath mat, hugging her knees. I told you. I don't know. His name is Silas. Silas is a handle, I said, stepping into the bathroom and closing the door, creating a second layer of barriers between us and the outside. I need the truth, Maya. The real truth, not the story you tell your friends. I crouched down in front of her. The power dynamic of the house had shifted. I wasn't the nagging mother anymore. I was the lead investigator, and she was the only witness. You met him where? The canvas, she sniffled. It's a forum for generative art, coding, and he was nice. He liked my work. He said I had a vision. He offered to help me with the render scripts for my final project. She looked up, eyes swimming in shame. He sent me a plug-in. He said it would optimize my GPU. A remote access Trojan, I said flatly. You installed a back door. I didn't know. It worked. My renders were twice as fast. But then the webcam light started turning on when I wasn't using it. My file started moving. And you didn't tell me. I was scared, she cried. You're always talking about security. You're always lecturing me about digital hygiene. I knew you'd kill me. So you let him kill you instead. It was harsh, but I needed to break through the panic. I needed facts. What does he have? I asked. Everything, she whispered. My journal, my private sketches, the photos I took for... She trailed off, face burning crimson. Compromising photos, I finished. She nodded. He said he'd send them to the dean, to Dad, to everyone. I felt a surge of cold, white-hot rage. It started in my gut and radiated out to my fingertips. This man, this boy, had groomed my daughter, invaded her privacy, and was now using her shame to terrorize us. He had made a mistake. He thought shame was a lever. He didn't realize that rage is a fuel. What is his username on the forum? I asked. Glitch, she said. Silas Glitch. And did he ever brag? I pressed. Narcissists always brag, Maya. Did he ever tell you how he did it? Did he talk about his setup? She blinked, wiping her nose on her sleeve. She was thinking, pulling herself out of the emotional drowning pool. Yeah. He loved to show off. He said American ISPs were trash. Go on. He said he used a private VPN in Estonia. He said it was military grade. Did he name it? No, but he mentioned a server node. He said he always routed through Stockholm? No, wait. She squeezed her eyes shut. Radom. No, that was the other thing. Stockholm was the server. Think, Maya. This is the most important thing you will ever remember. He gave me a DNS, she said suddenly. He told me to put it in my settings so my ISP couldn't track me. He said it was his secret tunnel. Do you remember the numbers? It was 8s, lots of 8s, and a 29. Write it down, I commanded. I pulled an eyeliner pencil from her vanity counter and grabbed a tissue. Whatever you can remember. Right now. She scribbled on the tissue. Her hand was shaking, but the numbers came out. DNS, 829, 100, VPN. Estonian thing? It wasn't much, but in my world a custom DNS address was a fingerprint. It was a breadcrumb. I stood up. I took the tissue. Stay here, I said. Lock the bathroom door. Do not come out until I knock 3 times. Where are you going? She asked, eyes wide with renewed panic. He's playing a game, I said, looking at the tissue, then at the dark screen of her phone where the predator lived. He thinks he's the hunter because he's outside. I opened the bathroom door and stepped into the bedroom. I walked to the window, bold now, and closed the blinds tight. I'm going to my office, I said to the closed door, and I'm going to burn his house down. I walked out. The text message chimed again on the phone I still held. Are you ignoring me, Elena? That's rude. Maybe I should send the first photo to your neighbors. The one with the golden retriever. I stared at the screen. He was escalating. He was trying to provoke a reaction. I typed my first response. Go ahead. I hit send. Then I powered the phone off. I walked to my office. The hallway felt longer now. The air was thick with the silent, screaming tension of a home invasion. But the fear was receding, replaced by the cold, sharp clarity of the analyst. I had a DNS. I had a handle. I unlocked my office. I sat at the obsidian desk. I reached under the desk and pressed the power button on the black tower case that sat on the floor. The machine that didn't exist on the home network. My ghost rig. The fans whirred to life, a low, aggressive hum. Let's play, Silas. The ghost rig was a relic. To the uninitiated, it looked like a piece of junk, a heavy black tower case from the late 90s, devoid of LEDs or branding, shoved under my desk like a forgotten footrest. But inside, it was a war machine. It ran a bespoke, hardened version of Linux I had compiled myself. No Wi-Fi card, no Bluetooth, no microphone. Its only connection to the outside world was a single shielded Ethernet cable that I now plugged into a dedicated wall port, a hard line that bypassed the compromised home router entirely and tunneled directly to a secure node I leased in Zurich. I typed my passphrase. 64 characters. Enter. The screen didn't bloom with a friendly wallpaper. It woke up to a stark, black terminal window with a blinking white cursor. Welcome, Phoenix. I took a breath. The air in the office felt thin, charged with the static of the equipment and the adrenaline pumping through my veins. I was no longer Mom. I was an apex predator entering the tall grass. I didn't go straight to the forum. That's what an amateur does. That's how you get tracked. Instead, I spun up a virtual machine, a fake computer inside my real computer, and routed my connection through 3 different jurisdictions: Iceland, Panama, Singapore. To anyone watching, my signal would look like a burst of random noise from the Pacific Rim. Only then did I type the address Maya had given me. The canvas.io. The page loaded. It wasn't the sleek corporate internet most people know. It was raw. Dark mode by default. The homepage was a chaotic mosaic of glitch art, shifting fractals and scrolling code. It was a digital speakeasy for the gifted and the arrogant. I didn't log in. I didn't have an account, and creating one would leave a timestamp. Instead, I activated a scraper, a custom script I'd written years ago for a due diligence audit. I pointed it at the site's public directory. Execute. Lines of text began to waterfall down my secondary monitor. Usernames, join dates, post counts, reputation scores. I was siphoning the metadata of the entire community, looking for the needle in the haystack. Glitch, I whispered. I filtered the stream. Search query, handle, Jetbus, Silas glitch. Result, Yearn match. I clicked the profile. It was a shrine to narcissism. His avatar was a gif of a melting Greek statue. His bio was a single line of binary that translated to, I see what you hide. I began to read his post history. This was the profile building phase. You don't catch a hacker by chasing his IP. He can change that in a second. You catch him by chasing his ego. He was prolific. 2,000 posts in 18 months. He positioned himself as a mentor, a guru of generative code. I scrolled back to 3 months ago. I saw the interactions Maya had described. He hadn't targeted her aggressively. He had negged her. He had critiqued a piece of her art, pointing out inefficient rendering, then offered a custom script to fix it. Classic grooming. He created a problem, then offered himself as the solution. I dug deeper. I looked for his technical bragging. Narcissists can't help it. They need to prove they are the smartest person in the room. I found a thread from last year titled, Commercial VPNs are for sheep. In it, user Silas DeGlitch argued with the moderator. You trust Nord? Please. I roll my own. Boutique service out of Tartu. 0 logs. Keep your latency. I'll keep my freedom. Tartu. That matched Maya's scribbled note about Estonia. I found another thread about DNS leakage. If you aren't resolving your own traffic, you're broadcasting. I use a custom resolver. 829. Redacted. He had redacted the full IP in the public post, but Maya had seen the full string. 829, 29, 100. The pieces were locking together. This wasn't a random botnet. This was a specific arrogant individual who believed he was untouchable. He had left his fingerprints all over the crime scene because he didn't believe anyone was smart enough to dust for them. I opened a new terminal window. I was about to run a correlation attack, taking his syntax, his specific spelling errors — he always typed receive instead of receive — and his code indentation style, and searching the wider web for matches. I was going to find out who he was when he wasn't glitch. I raised my hands to the keyboard, and then the lights went out. It wasn't a power cut. The LEDs on my server rack stayed green. The monitor stayed on. It was the smart bulbs. They turned off, then on, then red. Pulse, pulse, pulse. The room bathed in a bloody rhythmic glow. My heart slammed against my ribs. I looked at the ballistic glass window. The blinds were drawn, but I could feel the weight of the gaze from the garden. He knew I was hunting him. He wasn't just watching the house. He was monitoring the outbound traffic signatures. He had seen the scraper hit the forum. He was pushing back. The pulse of the red light sped up, a frantic visual strobe. It was designed to induce panic, to disorient, to make me feel small and trapped in my own fortress. I didn't panic. I reached under the desk and pulled the manual release for the room's circuit breaker. Clack. The overhead lights died completely. The red strobe vanished, leaving me in the cool, steady blue glow of my monitors. You can't scare me with light bulbs, Silas, I said to the empty room, but then the speakers crackled. The sound wasn't static. It was a digital scream, a high-pitched, synthesized feedback loop that tore through the acoustic panels of the office. I winced, covering my ears. The sound dropped in pitch, warping into a deep, distorted bass. It wasn't music. It was a voice, processed through a dozen filters until it sounded like grinding metal. "Mommy is working late." The voice seemed to come from inside the walls. I had disconnected the Wi-Fi, but the Sonos system was hardwired into the house's Ethernet backbone, the same backbone the smart hub controlled. I had missed a patch. "You locked her in the bathroom," the voice sneered. "That's not very nice. She's crying, Elena. Do you want to hear?" The speakers clicked. The sound of sobbing filled the room. It was tinny, echoing, but unmistakably Maya. He's recording her. My hands hovered over the keyboard. The ghost rig was safe. It was air-gapped on its own line, but the house itself was compromised. He was inside the nervous system of my home. I typed a command into my terminal. Netstat. Listen, I was looking for his connection to the house audio. "I see you typing," the voice said. "You think you can outcode me? I've been inside the system for months. I know your firmware versions. I know your passwords. I know you haven't updated the firewall on the refrigerator." The large 4K monitor on the wall, the one I used for market charts, the one connected to the home network, flickered to life. I hadn't touched it. A video feed appeared. It was the hallway outside my office door. The camera angle was high, fisheye. Then another feed tiled next to it. The kitchen. Then another. The living room. Then the worst one. The camera from Maya's laptop. The hoodie she had thrown over it had slipped partially. I could see the tiles of the bathroom floor. I could see her foot, curled on the bath mat. "I own this," the voice boomed. The volume was rising, vibrating the desk. "You built a smart house, Elena. You wired every inch of your life to the grid, and you handed me the remote." On the screen, text began to scroll over the camera feeds. Files acquired. 14,000 emails, 52,000 banking logins cached. He was bluffing about the banking. I knew he was bluffing. I had frozen the assets at the source, but he wanted me to think he had control. "Open the door," the voice commanded. "Unlock the bathroom. Give her the phone, or I release the folder. All of it. To your partners, to her school, to the internet." A timer appeared on the 4K screen. 050-004-59. He was giving me a deadline. My first instinct was to smash the screen, to tear the speakers out of the wall. But that's what a victim does. A victim reacts to the stimulus. An operator analyzes the source. I looked at the timer. He was arrogant. He was loud. He was using a brute force script to control the home automation API, and that meant he was noisy. While he monologued, I turned back to my secure rig. I opened a packet sniffer. I couldn't see the traffic inside the house network from this machine, but I could see the outbound requests hitting the secure tunnel he was using to mock me. I watched the data stream. It wasn't coming from Russia. It wasn't coming from China. The latency was too low. The packets were hitting the local exchange instantly. He is definitely local. He was likely using a high-gain antenna to bridge into our Wi-Fi from the street, bypassing the internet entirely for the local network control. "You want to play with the house?" I said, my voice barely audible over his synthesized taunts. "Fine. Let's see how you like the dark." I stood up. I walked to the corner of the room where the main networking patch panel was concealed behind a piece of art. I ripped the canvas off the wall. There was the bundle of yellow Cat 6 cables, the nervous system. "Don't do it," the voice growled. "You cut the line. I dumped the files." Arrow 320. "You'll dump them anyway," I said. I reached into the panel. I didn't unplug the cables gently. I grabbed the master bundle, and I pulled. Plastic snapped. Wires sheared. The 4K screen went black. The speakers died instantly. The silence that crashed back into the room was deafening. I stood there, breathing hard, holding a handful of severed cables. I had just lobotomized my own home. No cameras, no audio, no smart locks. We were blind, but so was he. I dropped the cables on the floor. I was done playing defense. Defense is a losing game. You can block 1,000 punches, but you only need to miss one to get knocked out. I needed to throw a punch. I looked at the ghost rig. It was still humming, unaffected, connected to the outside world via its dedicated line. He wanted money. That was his core motivation. The power trip was the icing, but the cake was greed. He had asked for the codes first. I walked back to the desk. Jacob, I muttered to myself, thinking of my security consultant's warnings about baiting hackers. You're going to hate this. I opened a browser on the secure rig. I navigated to a decentralized crypto exchange. I was going to build a trap. The silence in the house was heavy, thick with the threat of what was happening outside. I unlocked my office door and checked the hallway. Dark. Quiet. The cameras were dead eyes on the ceiling. I went to the kitchen. I grabbed a bottle of water. My hands were steady now. The adrenaline had crystallized into a cold, hard diamond of focus. I returned to the office and locked the door. I sat down at the ghost rig. Objective. Construct a honeypot. A honeypot is a decoy system. It looks like a vulnerability. It looks like a mistake. It looks like a treasure chest left unlocked. But inside, it's a bomb. I started by creating a new cryptocurrency wallet. I didn't use a standard user-friendly app like Coinbase. I used a raw web-based interface on a lesser-known blockchain, Solana. Fast, cheap, and supports complex smart contracts. I generated the keys. Public key, generated string. Private key, the keys to the kingdom. Now the bait. I couldn't use the frozen bank assets. I had to use my doomsday fund, a cold storage ledger I kept in the safe. I plugged in the hardware wallet. I authorized a transfer. Amount, 250,000 blauens. USD, equivalent. I watched the progress bar. Transfer complete. The new wallet now held $250,000. It was a life-changing amount of money for a grifter living in a basement. It was enough to make him sloppy. Enough to make him forget his military-grade security protocols. But money alone isn't a trap. I needed a trigger. I opened a code editor. I wrote a script. A smart contract. To the naked eye, it looked like a standard wrapper for the wallet. But buried in the metadata was a payload. If anyone tried to transfer the funds out of this wallet without the secondary multi-sig key, which I held, the contract would execute a callback function. It wouldn't just block the transfer. It would ping my server with the requester's raw IP, bypassing their proxy. It exploited a vulnerability in the way the blockchain handshaked with the user's node. It was a digital die pack. I compiled the code and attached it to the wallet address. Now, I had to feed it to him. He was locked out of the house network, but he had compromised our cloud accounts. He had admitted to seeing Maya's files. That meant he had access to our shared family Dropbox or Google Drive. I opened a new text document. I titled it, Estate Planning, Emergency Access.txt. I began to type. I channeled the voice of a frantic, terrified mother to James, lawyer, from Elena. Subject, Emergency Asset Move. James, please see below. I am moving the liquid cash to a secure crypto wallet because the bank accounts are frozen. I don't trust the bank. I need you to move this to the offshore trust immediately. Here are the keys to the wallet holding the $250,000. Pasted private key. Pasted wallet address. Please hurry. I think he is watching. I saved the file. I logged into the shared family cloud drive, the one place I knew he was lurking. I uploaded the file. Upload complete. I stared at it for 10 seconds. Then I right-clicked and selected delete. The file vanished. But on the cloud, deleted doesn't mean gone. It means moved to the trash folder. It means recently deleted. To a hacker, a deleted file is the holy grail. It screams, "Oops, I made a mistake." It screams, "This is the secret I tried to hide." He would see the upload log. He would see the deletion. And he would dive into the trash to recover it, thinking he was stealing a fortune I had tried to secure. I leaned back in my chair. The trap was set. The cheese was in the maze. Now I just had to wait for the rat. I looked at the clock. 12:45 p.m. The wait is the hardest part. In the silence, the fear from Maya came creeping back. Was he still outside? Was he throwing a brick through the window right now? I checked the terminal on the ghost rig. Status, listening. Nothing. The cursor blinked. Blink, blink, blink. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Had I miscalculated? Was he too smart? Then, a line of text scrolled onto the screen. Alert, wallet access detected. My heart leapt. Source, unknown proxy. He was looking at it. He was checking the balance. He was seeing the $250,000 sitting there, ripe for the taking. I held my breath. Take it, you greedy bastard. Another line scrolled. Alert, transfer initiated. Destination, unknown wallet. He was trying to drain it. Execute smart contract. The screen exploded with data. The text on the screen moved so fast, it was a blur. The smart contract had triggered. The die pack had exploded in his face. Handshake accepted, bypassing proxy, resolving origin node. The system was fighting him. He thought he was moving money, but he was actually downloading a beacon. A list of IP addresses began to populate the log. 104.92 Xjalsex, Cloudflare, masked. 185.8xx, Seychelles, masked. 45.xx, X, Brazil, masked. He was bouncing his signal through a dozen servers. A chaotic web of misdirection. Come on, I hissed. Where are you? The list was too long. It was noise. He was hiding in a crowd of fake signals. I needed a filter. I needed to know which one was real. I remembered the tissue, the eyeliner scribbles. DNS, 8.29. 29 ton 100 aus. I typed furiously into the filter command line. Filter, DNS small resolver. Schnell mom 8.29. 29 to 100s. The screen cleared. The noise vanished. One single line of data remained. Match found. Connection via Estonian Node v4 True Origin. IP 78.10.142.55. Got you. I ran the trace route on the IP. Geolocation, Tartu, Estonia. ISP, Veracity Solutions. Leased line. Wait. Estonia? But he was outside. He took the photo. My mind raced. Two attackers? No. The phone. Maya's phone. He wasn't outside. He had never been outside. The photo? The timestamp. I grabbed my burner phone. I pulled up the weather app for our zip code. Current conditions? Clear. 72 miles. I thought back to the photo, the shadow of the oak tree. In the photo, the shadow was long, stretching across the driveway. At 12:03 p.m., noon, shadows are short. They are directly underneath the object. Long shadows happen at sunset or sunrise. The photo wasn't live. It was old. He had taken it from a previous surveillance run, maybe days ago, or hacked a delivery driver's dash cam archive. He had edited the timestamp to 12:03 p.m. to terrify us. He was in Estonia. He was thousands of miles away. The physical threat was a lie. A laugh bubbled up in my throat. Hysterical, sharp. We were safe. The house was safe. But he wasn't. I looked at the ghost rig. The die pack script wasn't done. It had secured his IP, but now it was executing the second phase. Payload delivered. Because he had tried to execute a transaction on my compromised wallet, he had authorized a two-way handshake. He had opened a door to his own machine, and I had just walked through it. My screen changed. It wasn't showing my terminal anymore. It was showing a remote desktop view. I was looking at his screen. It was a mess of open windows, chat logs, code compilers, and a folder on his desktop named Target Alina. I saw the mouse cursor moving frantically on his screen. He was trying to close the connection. He realized something was wrong. "Too late, Silas," I whispered. I initiated the download. "Copy all? JPG? TXT? Move." I wasn't stealing his money. I was stealing his leverage. I watched the progress bar. Downloading mayajournal.pdf. Downloading mayaphotos.zip. I was pulling the files off his drive and onto my secure server. And then the final stroke. Command, delete. Recursive, hardening force. I sent the kill command to his machine. On the remote screen, windows started to vanish. Icons disappeared from the desktop. The wallpaper turned black. He was typing furiously in a chat window, probably to his support tech. But the letters weren't appearing. His operating system was eating itself. I watched his digital world dissolve into nothingness. Connection lost. He pulled the plug. It didn't matter. I looked at the folder on my drive. Files recovered. I had the blackmail. I had the IP. I had the proof. I opened my secure email client. I composed a new message. To Agent Miller, FBI Cyber Division. Subject, urgent. International extortion. Data packet attached Miller. Attached is the full forensic package on the individual known as Silas Glitch. True IP, 78.10.142.55. Tartu, Estonia. Crimes, extortion, CFAA violation, minors involved. He just lost his hard drive. He'll be running. Pick him up. Elena send. I sat back. The fans of the ghost rig spun down. The silence in the room wasn't heavy anymore. It was empty. The war was over. I sat there for a long time. My hands were shaking again, but this time it was the crash. The adrenaline leaving my body, leaving behind the exhaustion of the siege. I looked at the estate planning document in the trash of the cloud drive. I restored it and deleted the wallet keys. The $250,000 was safe. It had never really been at risk. It was just pixels on a screen to bait a greedy boy. I stood up. My legs felt like lead. I unlocked the office door. The hallway was dark. The severed cables of the smart home system lay on the floor like dead snakes. I walked to Maya's room. I stopped at the door. I listened. Silence. I knocked 3 times. "Maya?" No answer. Panic flared again. A small ember. I used the key. Click. I pushed the door open. The room was dark, the blinds still drawn tight. "Mom?" She was sitting in the bathtub. The door to the bathroom cracked open. She held the eyeliner pencil like a weapon. "It's okay," I said. My voice cracked. "It's over." She didn't move. "Is he gone?" "He's gone," I said. "He wasn't outside, Maya. He was in Estonia. The photo was fake." She let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. She dropped the pencil. I walked into the bathroom and sat on the edge of the tub. I didn't try to hug her yet. I respected the trauma. Did you pay him?" she asked. "No." "Did he release the photos?" "No," I said. "I deleted them from his computer, and I sent his address to the FBI." She looked up at me, eyes wide, red-rimmed. "You hacked him." "I audited him," I corrected, aggressively. She stared at me. For the first time in years, she didn't look at me with annoyance or resentment. She looked at me with awe. "The numbers," I said gently. "The DNS, 829.29 You saved us, Maya. I couldn't have found him without that. I just remembered him bragging. You gathered intel, I said. You were an asset. She smiled, a tiny, fragile thing. Come on, I said, standing up and offering a hand. Let's get out of the bathroom. I think we need some tea, and maybe we leave the phones off for a while. She took my hand. Her grip was strong. 2 weeks later, the house was different. We hadn't reconnected the smart home system. The cameras were gone. The speakers were gone. We had hired a contractor to patch the drywall where I had ripped out the cables. Maya had painted a mural over the patch in the hallway, a sprawling, chaotic burst of color that looked like a nebula. I was in my office. The door was open. Maya was sitting in the chair opposite me. We weren't fighting. We were working. Okay, I said, pointing to her laptop screen. Show me the permissions for this app. It's just a photo editor, Mom, she said, but there was no bite in it. She clicked the settings. Access, contacts, location, microphone. Why does a photo editor need your microphone? I asked. It doesn't, she said. She clicked the toggle. Off. Good. I got an email, she said, looking down at her keyboard, from the dean. I stiffened. And? He said they received an anonymous tip about academic dishonesty a few weeks ago, but the sender's email address had been deactivated. Imagine that, I said, taking a sip of tea. He said since there was no evidence, they were closing the inquiry. She looked up at me. Thank you. I didn't do anything, I lied. I had scrubbed the school server logs the night of the attack, just to be sure. But she didn't need to know that. I made something, she said. She turned her laptop around. It was a new piece of generative art. It wasn't chaotic like her old stuff. It was structured, lines of light weaving together to form a sphere. It looked like a shield, but it wasn't solid. It was a mesh. What is it? It's a firewall, she said, but it breathes. See? She ran the script. The lines shifted, opening and closing, allowing light to pass through, but blocking the dark shapes that tried to enter. It's beautiful, I said, and I meant it. I call it the open gate, she said. I looked at her, my brilliant, messy, vulnerable daughter, who had learned the hard way that the world is sharp. I had spent her whole life trying to build a fortress around her. I had tried to be the walls. But walls keep people in. Walls create secrets, and secrets create leverage. I realized then that the strongest security wasn't a firewall. It wasn't a bank account with $250,000. It wasn't an air-gapped server in a dark room. It was this, the door open, the conversation flowing. The trust that she could come to me when she made a mistake, and I would help her fix it instead of judging her. It's perfect, I said. I closed my laptop. Teach me how you wrote the rendering script, I said. The syntax looks efficient. Maya grinned. Okay, but try to keep up, Mom. It's Python, not COBOL. I learn fast, I said. Outside, the sun was shining. The shadows were short. The garden was green and peaceful. The world was still dangerous. There were still wolves in the tall grass. But we were a pack now, and we were ready. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you are here.